Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Newark and Sherwood series, a district of 84 civil parishes right in the centre of Nottinghamshire. Come with me as we delve into one of them. Right, today in Newark and Sherwood we've got to cross the East Coast main line to get to the main village, and I couldn't have timed this better because these barriers have just gone down. So in a moment there'll be a train coming past. Now I have no idea which way it's coming from, of course, but yeah, it'll be flying past any moment now. And this signal box you can see in front of you, you can see that from the A1. It doesn't have the name of the village on the side of it, it has Ferry Lane on the side of it. That's the name of the signal box. But I know this signal box very well because I've seen it quite a few times flying down the A1 in both directions, actually, because you can see it from both ways. This is the parish of North Muskham. This Newark and Sherwood video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Our trip around North Muskham begins here at Ferry Lane level crossing, where we were treated to not just one but two trains heading for London. This is the parish boundary here with Batley. The signal box is no longer used and it was downgraded to a gate box in the mid-1970s. The level crossing should no longer be here either, as it was slated for removal back in 2014. For whatever reason, it still exists, and once I was across the line, we could start properly. Welcome to a village with a population close to 1,000, with around 360 properties. Our walk starts on Manor House Drive. This is right next to two major water features. First of all, North Muskham Lake. Much like Girton, this was created from the former workings of gravel extraction in the area. Termed a nature reserve, the lake covers some 6 hectares. There's no entry fee and it's totally free access, and you can walk around it on a surfaced footpath that encircles the reserve. The lake might be sizable, but it's by no means North Muskham's be-all and end-all when it comes to water. That's because the village stands on the western bank of a very familiar river. So this is the River Trent once again. Fun fact, this is the furthest south we've ever seen the river so far on TVI. The Trent holds quite a lot of history here, including, for starters, what's on the opposite bank. On the other side is the small village of Holme, which used to be a part of Muskham Parish. Both settlements used to be on this side of the river until a huge flood changed the Trent's course. Until about 1575, the River Trent ran further east, but the flood, described as cataclysmic by all accounts, ended up separating Holme from North Muskham. Keep that in mind for later. Now we're using Mackley's Lane, one of several Trent side roads, to get back into the village, but we will return to the Trent shortly. So what's North Muskham all about then? Well, in the 15th century, Flemish weavers were introduced into the country, some of whom settled in North Muskham, and wool production soon became a local industry. The most prominent wool merchants in this area included John Barton of Holme, and it was he who is in part responsible for the magnificent Grade 1 listed church here, which we'll see in a short while. So North Muskham is a place that has 3 channel favourites. We've already seen the East Coast Main Line and we've just seen the River Trent, and I'm working my way down to the A1 and I'll be walking alongside that a little later. We've also got to walk under it. The village appears in the Domesday Book as Muskham, and it was in the 100 of Lythe. Whilst wool merchants are no longer a thing here, there's still lots in existence that we can get stuck into. Some of it is pretty bland and mundane, for example this sewage pumping station seen here on Main Street, operated by River Trent Water. But in keeping with the watery theme, next we need to go down that street right there. That's Ferry Lane, and as the name suggests, there was once a ferry over the river and it linked North Muskham to Holme. There's currently one public house in the village, and it's the very popular Muskham Ferry. This is where the boat, which once sailed over the waters, landed on the western bank of the Trent. The ferry was important. It once brought youngsters from Holme to the school in North Muskham. It ran for about 400 years, but it was abandoned in the 1960s due to lack of demand. It's never been totally forgotten, and as such a Riverside festival was held at the Muskham Ferry, reenacting the crossing in 2014, which attracted around 400 visitors. So you can follow this path a long way down the side of the River Trent, but we're only going a short distance here because otherwise I'd end up in Newark on Trent, and that's not on my agenda just yet. It will be soon though. Okay, we're about to come to the church, which you can see from this path as well. I'll turn the camera around for you. There it is. Now I will actually catch this from the other way, off the road. This path takes us down to another footpath which I'll join, and then that takes us back to the road, and then I'll catch the church from that side. But there it is from the riverbank path. The walk down the river was only made possible for the first time in 50 years just recently after fences blocking it were removed. That's because conclusive proof was found that it was a public right-of-way. After a walk down Crab Lane, we're back to Main Street. This next section is towards the south of the village, and there's a few scattered, isolated properties on either side of the road. North Muskham lacks any kind of retail facilities or a post office, but it does have religious buildings. The first of these is coming up next, and it's a Methodist chapel. This is the building in question. The Wesleyans had an original in North Muskham, which was built in 1814. They moved to a new chapel in 1905. I imagine this is the later building. Outside we have the parish notice board. I wondered where this was because this is now about halfway around the route, and I passed another one later close to the school. We continue back to the north, and the school is one of the next major landmarks on the route. This next building though made me wonder if I was still in England. Now of course the aim of this channel is to visit every civil parish in England, but I do know a little bit about Scotland and Northern Ireland, and that house there is very typical of the kind of house you would find in some parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Then they're called crofts. I'm not quite sure why they're called crofts, but that's the term that's used for a house that looks like that. From the old to the very new, this is Gilbert's Field off Main Street. The very name of this street suggests to me that this was once literally a field, and one owned by a man of the same name. Maybe you North Muskham locals can fill in the blanks on that one. There's no doubting what these next two things are though. We're approaching the churchyard at St Wilfrid's. Over the road is the Old Hall, one of North Muskham's most impressive buildings. It's a Grade 2 listed house which originates from 1679. The west front was remodelled and altered in 1820. So now we'll have a proper look at St Wilfrid's Church, a medieval building which is Grade 1 listed. One of the more ancient churches around, it was restored during 1906 and 1907. It's believed St Wilfrid's was founded between 1108 and 1114. The Barton family coat of arms is displayed in various places in and around the church. Remember John Barton of Holme from earlier? Well, he left a will funding the construction of the north aisle, a copy of which hangs inside the church. Speaking of the inside, this one was open. I haven't seen a war memorial yet in this village, but on the wall over here there looks to be a Roll of Honour. Yeah, it's the Roll of Honour. There we go. That's quite nice, that. Next, as we continue north, will be the school, although of course the present building is not the original village school. A lady named Mary Woodhouse endowed the original 1798 school. A board school was then built here in 1880 on a site previously devoted to the Mary Woodhouse Endowed School. That school closed in 1965, and this is the current school, built in 1966. The board school building still exists, but our route doesn't pass it. What it does pass though is this attractive little pole with an intricate carving on one side and the word Muskham on the other. Around the corner and we're on to Nelson Lane. This will take us past the Muskham Rural Community Centre, which is effectively the village hall. It's also in front of a play area and a recreation field. The centre comprises a large hall, a small hall with a bar, a stage, a meeting room, a small conference room with presentation equipment, and even a fitted kitchen with a beer cooler. Okay, right, we've reached the A1 junction, which is here. So this is a big roundabout which goes underneath the A1, and we're walking under the A1 because on the other side of this there's a footpath which runs alongside it to the west, and it'll take us up to a bridge. We'll cross that bridge, take us back into the village and almost back to the start point, and that'll be a nice walk around North Muskham. So now we're off up the side of the A1, the western side, or if you like, the northbound carriageway. Here's the North Muskham Junction, and on the other side of this is Ashiana. Ashiana is an Indian restaurant which, according to TripAdvisor, is so popular it's regarded as being in the top 10% of the best restaurants in the world. I like a curry, so I must try this. This part of the A1 is not really anything special, but I will take this opportunity to talk a bit about North Muskham services, which can be found just north of the junction. A little chef opened here in the 1960s. It operated in tandem with the services at Cromwell, and in the 1980s it was thoroughly refurbished and gained a Little Chef Lodge. It later gained a Burger King. Euro Garages acquired the Burger King in January 2017 when they bought the rights to Little Chef, and during late 2018 it closed for refurbishment, reopening in February 2019. There used to be a Travelodge hotel here. Following the second coronavirus lockdown in 2020, Travelodge closed it in favour of their new hotel in Newark-on-Trent town centre. And now I'm high above the A1 on the bridge. That's actually quite a long way, that, to walk down the A1 just there. But there it is, the A1 making its way through North Muskham, north and south, which I've done on many an occasion before, and I probably will again as I carry on through Newark and Sherwood. For now though, I'm heading back to the car, which is this way. There might be a few more things to catch, but generally speaking, that's the main walk done. So you guys need today's picture bit, and here it comes right now. I was right about there being some more to catch. Once over the bridge, I was faced with this. Behind these railings is the Muskham Cross, which holds many myths and legends, and it also had a function. The last part of the route takes in the old Great North Road and then crosses a field via a footpath. Nothing too exciting, so I'm going to dedicate this last section to more about that cross. This will tie together a lot of things we've already spoken about. Before the Muskham ferry existed, the only way to cross the river was by fording it, as the river was generally quite shallow. However, it was still a very dangerous way to get across it. The ford, though, was hugely important. In 1536, at the time of the Pilgrimage of Grace, the ford could take 80 horsemen abreast. That's 80 horses side by side, and that's some crossing. The Muskham Cross was designed to lead people to the safest crossing point from the road, as the riverbank was 150 so metres away. Holme on the opposite bank also had a cross which served the same purpose. However, as we'll see when we get there, its cross is in a much more dilapidated state than its North Muskham brother. And that, my friends, as they say, is that for North Muskham. Now, I haven't talked about buses yet, but if you want one, the 37 is one of them. You can also catch the 339, and I know that because it's just come past me down here. But I'm heading back to the car, which is this way. Oh, here's the 37 now, look, you see. Talk about it, and here it is, number 37, on its way to Newark. There we are, and it's the Marshals of Sutton-on-Trent. What a surprise. They're based just down the road. Speaking of that road, the A1, I'm about to get on it and head for the hills because I'm done here in Newark and Sherwood for today. I'll be back at some point in the not too distant future to carry on. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. This has been the Parish of North Muskham, and I'm out.